Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulika al-kareem. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Bismillah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitan rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. قولوا آمنا بالله وما أنزل إلينا وما أنزل إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط وما أوتي موسى وعيسى وما أوتي النبيون من ربهم لا نفرق بين أحد منهم ونحن له مسلمون. This is the ayah number 136 of Surah Al-Baqarah. Inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us and grants us the tawfiq, we will be discussing some of the aspects of the message of the Qur'an which has been made complex and confusing by some people in our time through the deepening of our understanding of this ayah number 136 of Surah Al-Baqarah. The simple rendering is قُولُوا آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْنَا وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ وَالْأَسْبَاطِ. Say, we believe upon Allah and what has been sent down ilayna, upon us, وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ وَالْأَسْبَاطِ, and what was sent down upon Ibrahim and Ismail وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوب and Asbat. And we will inshallah go into Asbat soon. وَمَا أُوتِيَ مُوسَى وَعِيسَى, and what was given to Musa and to Isa. وَمَا أُوتِيَ النَّبِيُّونَ مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ, and what was given to the Nabis, to the prophets, by their Rabb. مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ, by their Rabb or from their Rabb. لَا نُفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ أَحَدٍ مِّنْهُمْ, and we do not distinguish. We do not make. We have to open this. La nufarriku. La nufarriku faraka is to separate, to distinguish, to like Farooq comes from it, Furqan comes from it, but separates two things. We'll go into details, inshallah. La nufarriku bayna ahadim minhum, not even in one of them. We do not, general meaning is that we do not make a distinction between one and the other. They are all the prophets of Allah, and everything that has been sent, we believe in that. وَنَحْنُ لَهُ مُسْلِمُونَ, and we are submitters to lahu. And lahu here refers back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I hope whatever translation you are reading or looking at, what I said is a direct linguistic rendering of the ayah itself. People may have translated it differently, but the content basically says that there is a command Kulu. At the beginning, there is a command, say. And this is in plural. آمنا بالله وما أنزل إلينا وما أنزل إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط. Say that we believe, we amanna, we have to open amanna. Believe is a very weak rendering. Billahi, upon Allah, wama unzila ilayna, and what has been sent down. Unzila is a very important Quranic word. We need to make it our own. Unzila, nazala. Noon, zal, lam is the root. Noon, zal, lam. Ilayna wama unzila ila Ibrahim wa Ismail wa Ishaq wa Yaqub wal asbat. Let's now begin to open one by one. And we are going to, inshallah, benefiting from several scholars today, including our dear Imam al-Tabari. We haven't mentioned him for some time now. And of course, we will be benefiting from the reflections of Imam al-Razi and Imam al-Qurtubi. And when we say that we are benefiting from them, we mean that whatever I am saying, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting upon my tongue right now, I'm not saying it from myself. I do not have the qualifications to do the tafsir of the Qur'an. Tafsir of the Qur'an requires not knowledge but expertise in at least 33 sciences of the Qur'an. And as Imam al-Suyuti mentions in his Al-Itaqan. And in order to say something from our own self, this is a huge undertaking, this is a huge responsibility, and everyone should really tremble in our times to claim that he or she has the ability to do the tafsir of the Quran. Because this knowledge has to be internalized, not just having the knowledge, but it has to be internalized. Expertise means that you know inside out, and there is no one living now. Qulu amanna billahi wa ma unzila. And our great mufassirs, they break down the ayahs into smaller units to explain to us. And people like Razi would connect the ayah to the previous ayahs so that we have continuity of a very high order in the Quran. So inshallah, we benefit from that as well. Connecting this ayah with the previous ayah, Imam Razi says that in the previous ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to their saying, وَقَالُوا كُونُوا هُودًا أَوْ نَصَارَى تَهْتَدُوا قُلْ بَلْ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. They said, be a Yahudi, be a Jew or a Nasrani or a Christian, and you will be guided. But you say, we Bal millata Ibrahim Hanifa, but our deen is the deen of Ibrahim, who was a Hanif, wa ma kana min al-mushrikeen, and he was not among the mushrikeen. And now he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to them through the saying of the entire ummah, Kulu amanna, say, this Kulu is to you and me, and until the end of time to everyone who is a Muslim. The confusion that I mentioned, inshallah, we can address that. قولوا آمنا بالله وما أنزل إلينا وما أنزل إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط. They say to them that we believe in Allah, we believe in whatever He has been sent down upon us, meaning the Quran, and what was sent down upon Ibrahim, Ismail, Ishaq, Yaqub, and Asbat. Asbat, just to quickly mention that, is the equivalent of Qabail. So Asbat here is the children and the grandchildren of of these prophets who are mentioned: Ibrahim, Ismail, Ishaq, Yaqub. So Ibrahim alayhi salam is the father, Ismail and Ishaq are the children, and Yaqub is the grandchild. And then Asbat would include the progeny after. So in the Yaqub alayhi salam, and we'll go to Musa and Isa alayhi salam after this, but let's just try to understand the confusion that has been caused. Not from just this ayah, but from other ayahs as well. The confusion is that there are some people, including those, or not all, but most of the people who wrote the study Quran, and who believe and who propagate, and there are some shuyukhs who also say, well, we believe in all of, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to believe in what was sent down on Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ismail alayhi salam, Ishaq and Yaqub and Musa and Isa alayhi salam, then there is a common word. So this new facade that is being propagated now about what even they cannot even call it correctly, but they call it Abrahamic accord, whatever that means, is coming from the same mindset, and some of the Arabs are also, they are actually the beginners of this as well. So the common word initiative, all of this at political level, social level, even in the level of, at the level of aqaid. So let's just be together. Open the masajid to the Jews and Christians, and let's just go to their churches and synagogues and just have good party, good time. What's the problem? You see, the Quran tells us to believe in all of them. So this problem, of course, has a new dimension to it, but it's not new in itself, because Imam al-Razi, subhanallah, look at the mind. He's as if he knew what people are going to do. He says, how can this be? Because we believe that the sharias brought by these prophets has been abrogated. And this position of abrogation, which is in that beautiful article in the first volume of IEQ, abrogation is a Quranic concept fundamental to the understanding of the Quran, that there is abrogation in the Quran, meaning some things have been abrogated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this abrogation is it operates at two levels. One is that even certain ayahs of the Quran were abrogated, either in their meanings or their legal rulings, or even in their wording. So the famous example they give is that of Qibla. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changed the Qibla, so He abrogated the previous practice. So that's the practice. And then and there are others, like the Khamar is another example. Khamar was, drinking was prohibited gradually. So all of those things happen in the Quran, abrogation. But then there is this abrogation of the previous sharias. And this is an established position of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that every, not only the prophetic Sunnah, prophetic Sharia, but every single Sharia that came abrogated the previous Sharias. And this is known. So Imam al-Razi, he raises this question for us, like right there. He says, so what does it mean to say believe in Allah? Obviously that's clear, but believe in what all the other prophets which are mentioned. Precisely, his question is the following. He says that he actually says question and then he says answer. Subhanallah. Question: how is it possible to believe in Ibrahim, Musa, Isa alayhimus salam when the reality is that their sharias have been abrogated? Answer: we believe that their sharias were valid for the time, for their times. نحن نؤمن بأن كل واحد من تلك الشرائع كان حقا في زمانه. We testify, we believe that the sharias of all of them, every one of them, was haq, was true for their time. فلا يلزم منا من المناقضة. So it is not self-contradictory for us to say that their sharias are no more valid and we still believe in them. What we believe is not the sharia, but not the legal rulings, but the innermost core of their religion, which has always been constant, which has never been abrogated, which will never be abrogated, and that is Tawheed, Risala, and Ma'ad. Razi is not saying these things at this point, but he says these elsewhere, and everyone says these elsewhere. So the confusion that has been caused is that, okay, they are all prophets, you believe in them, then what's the problem? The problem is the following. As Razi says, أما اليهود والنصارى لما اعترفوا بنبوة بعض من ظهر المعجز عليه وأنكروا نبوة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. So as for the Jews, he says, they believed in some of the prophets who brought the mu'jiza, who brought the miracles. So it is actually contradictory for them not to believe in the nubuwah, in the prophethood of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, because the same kind of miracles have appeared for him. So I hope he says this makes it clear. What is being said is that there is no contradiction in our belief that we believe in them and we do not believe in the Sharia, the legal rulings, Sharia, like how to pray and how many days to fast and Hajj and Zakat and like all of those things. We do not believe in what was there, but we believe in the core integral units of belief, meaning Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, prophethood, and the Akhirah. The problem is in them, he says, because they said that we believe in these prophets. First of all, there are two problems, he says. Number one, that they only believe in some of them. Like the Jews did not believe in Isa alayhi salam. Number two, their argument was and is, well, these are prophets because we have proofs of their prophethoods. Subhanallah, it just came to my mind that even this has gone away now. Like at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Jews still believed in miracles. They still believed in the special status of the prophets. But now the modified DNA changed, everything changed. Now they say, well, most of them say, except for a small group of Orthodox Jews, they say, well, they were all people like us, and they had their spiritual struggles, and they were just like us. But they are just examples, and each of these examples, they say, shows us a different aspect of the human struggle. So they are all like us, and they made mistakes, they say. Na'uzubillah. I mentioned this several times. If we read Bible, we just subhanallah. If you ever read Bible, if you ever read the Old Testament, the kind of things they have put in there, subhanallah, about the prophets. Now, Imam al-Qurtubi, instead of having this kind of framing that Imam Razi does, he came after Imam Razi. Like he died in 671 Hijrah, and Imam Razi died in 606 Hijrah. It's very easy actually to remember these deaths because Imam al-Ghazali died in 505, so 101 years after that, Imam Razi. So Imam al-Qurtubi, instead of framing it the way Razi did, he actually gives us a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that just tells us everything we need to know. Kharraj al-Bukhari an Abi Huraira, he says, al-Bukhari, may Allah have mercy on Imam al-Bukhari and grant him the highest station in Jannah. He has a hadith from Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu. قال كان أهل الكتاب يقرؤون التوراة بالعبرانية ويفسرونها بالعربية لأهل الإسلام. He said that the people of the book used to read the Torah in Ibrani, in Hebrew, and then they would explain to us in Arabic. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So the Prophet, the Messenger of Allah, salatu wassalam, he said, لا تصدقوا أهل الكتاب ولا تكذبهم وقولوا آمنا بالله وما أنزل إلينا, like the whole ayah. So we have a tafsir of this ayah from none other than the Prophet ﷺ himself. Just say, لا تصدقوا أهل الكتاب ولا تكذبهم, do not testify the people of the book and do not discard, do not tukazibu is to kazaba is to deny or to, so do not do either of them, he said. Just say this ayah. And Qala Muhammad bin Sirin. Now, Ibn Sirin is one of our great scholars from the Tabi'in, and he was known for his knowledge of the dream interpretations, and he has a book on dream interpretations. He's one of the great explainers. He says, إِذَا قِيلَ لَكَ أَنْتَ مُؤْمِنٌ, when you are asked, are you a mu'min? فَقُلْ, say, آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْنَا وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ وَإِسْحَاقَ. The whole ayah. If somebody asks you, he is just sort of paraphrasing the hadith itself. And Imam al-Qurtubi, because he has this very deep interest in legality, so there is a question that arises from this discussion, and that is whether or not one can say, I am a mu'min. And he says, we will inshallah explain that in Surah Al-Anfal, and following him, inshallah, we will, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us the tawfiq and the time to get to Surah Al-Anfal, we will deal with that. But for now, he says, inshallah is enough. So someone asked بعض المقدمين عن رجل قيل له أتؤمن بفلان النبي فسماه باسم لم يعرفه. So someone from the previous people, like the olden times, someone asked a person, do you believe in such and such a prophet? He doesn't name the prophet, but the person who asked the question, he named that prophet. And the person who was asked did not know that particular prophet about whom he was being asked. Now he is in this situation. If he says no, then he will be denying the prophethood of a prophet. And if he says yes, he will be testifying to the prophethood of someone who was not a prophet, if he was not a prophet. So this kind of tricky question, he says, what shall that person do? So he went to a scholar and he said, what shall I do? This person is asking me this tricky question. If I say yes, and I don't know that prophet. So the scholar told him, just say simply, if he was a prophet, then I believe in him. So that if solves the problem. There is a very insightful report from Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him and his father. He says, جاء نفر من اليهود إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. A group of Jews came to the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام فسألوه أمن يؤمن به من الأنبياء. They asked him upon which prophets one should believe. And Fanazalatil Ayah, and this is one of the sciences of the Quran, the Asbab al-Nuzul, and this is the Asbab al-Nuzul, the occasions of revelation. We have said this before, it does not mean that an occasion causes, there is a direct relationship. There is a sort of relationship between what is happening and what is being revealed, but it's not the cause and effect as we understand cause and effect. Like if I throw a glass on the ground and it breaks, that is cause and effect. The gravity just pulled the glass on the floor and it just broke. But in the Quran, when we have the science of the occasions of revelation, Asbabul Nuzul, and there are books upon books, Asbabul Nuzul books, what they mean is that there is a dynamic relationship between the time of prophethood of the Prophet ﷺ, those 23 years, and the order of revelation. So this is a prime example. A group of Jews comes to the Prophet ﷺ, they ask him this question, and this ayah comes, and when the ayah is recited to them, فَلَمَّا جَاءَ ذِكْرُ عِيسَى قَالُوا لَا نُؤْمِنُ بِعِيسَى وَلَا مَنْ آمَنَ بِهِ. Oh, actually we don't believe in Isa, and we don't even believe in the one who believes upon Isa. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Look at this trickiness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in the hearts of the questioners. And subhanallah, these questions are so important. Questions are extremely important. And why they are important is that if there is a real question, if someone is really deeply interested in reaching the truth, then the questions are valid. But if somebody asks the question just for the sake of asking the question because he just or she just wants to show off, or it's just a joke, like it's not seriousness that causes the question, then that is really a terrible thing to do. And this just, subhanAllah, reminds me of the questions, two questions I was asked after the last class. And these are serious questions. These are questions arising out of a serious engagement with the Quran and perhaps also the personal situation. Remember, the last class was, I have to digress here because inshallah we'll come back to Imam al-Tabri now. But let me just clarify because this thing just came. Remember the last class we had a discussion, one of the very important creedal issue of Al-Qadr, of the divine decree and the human freedom. That was a long class and I hope that was beneficial. So the question that came after the class from one of the brothers who is really very serious student of the Quran and has been in these classes for a long time, he says, my understanding from the class is that the knowledge of Allah about my choice does not intervene with my choice of a path, as this knowledge was not conveyed to me during deciding about the path. Hence the justice on the action or path one takes, coupled with the understanding that we don't control the tracks we are put on, but being judged about what we do on the track, following your train analogy. Remember the analogy I gave about the train track? When I was 16 and used to go to railway station in Lahore and look at this person who had the lever in his hand, he would change the tracks and the train will go in a different direction. MashaAllah, this is beautifully comprehended. Now, two more thoughts / questions. When in the Quran it is said, Allah guides whoever He wishes and He misguides whoever He wishes. يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيُضِلُّ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. So perhaps he says, at some point, can you reflect more on these concepts in relation to the creed? So the first thought is that, okay, we understand that there is divine decree about us and we do not know the decree. Abu Jahl did not know the decree when he was making those choices. He was still free to make the choices because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone knows whether or not he was going to believe. But he is working. He is operating in a serial time, and he theoretically the path remains open for everyone, including Abu Jahl, until the last breath, as the case of Fir'aun is clearly stated in the Quran. Al-an, like now, when you have seen the death. So when the death has been seen by the dying person, the case is now closed. But until then, Abu Jahl, all the Abu Jahls of the world, they have a chance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already knows whether or not they are going to accept his message, but the person does not. So divine knowledge does not force. So that part is clear. But what about these ayahs? يَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ وَيُضِلُّ مَن يَشَاءُ. He guides whomever he wants, and he desires, and he misguides. So that's one question. Second, about creation of deeds, good and evil. I was once asked, why would Allah then allow the evil deed to harm a child or human, for example? What is our correct attitude to such questions or even thoughts? May Allah reward you, and many thanks for sharing the classes and following the discussions. MashaAllah. So these two are really important questions, and I want to devote a full session, and it may also exceed the 1 hour we normally use. Like last time, it was 1 hour and 40 minutes or 32 minutes. So inshallah, I'm going to announce beforehand when these are going to be dealt with, inshallah, within the month of December. But these are serious questions, and this is one example of a serious engagement with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, when we have two situations. One, we have an existential burning question of our own that doesn't let us rest. Like when I was 16, I just couldn't rest with this question of Qadr. This man with the liver in his hand, he's just deciding where the train is going, and I'm sitting in the train. What can I do? I have no Subhanallah. Like, what can I do? Because I don't have the liver in my hand. So one could be an existential burning situation that leads to question, reading, reflection. The second is that we are reading the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a daily basis. We are connected with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we want to understand it. And both have examples in the lives of the companions and the scholars. We have examples from both sides. Like, people came to the Prophet ﷺ with very specific existential questions, and there are scholars who went through every single word, every single phrase, every single ayah of the Quran, and they explain, as Imam al-Tabari is going to, inshallah, help us here in where we were. So this incident that we just mentioned, when the Jews came and they said that they had a trick question, and they said, no, we are not going to believe in Isa alayhi salam, and whoever believes in Isa, we don't believe in him. Subhanallah. So this was their way of saying that we don't believe in you. And by the way, Jews still have the same attitude. Like most of the Jews, even the Jews who, I had this conversation with one of the rabbis. He says, no, we believe. Like, this is a public forum. This was a conference in Vancouver. And he says, why do you always tell us we don't believe? We believe in Muhammad, he said, salatu wassalam, which he didn't say. But we believe that his prophethood was for you, not for us. So, going back to the ayah itself, وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَصَدَّقْنَا عِيدًا وَآمَنَّا بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِلَى إِسْمَاعِيلَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ وَالْأَسْبَاطِ وَهُمُ الْأَنْبِيَاءُ. So al-asbat, it says, humul anbiya'u man wulida Yaqub, the children of Yaqub alayhi salam, and further on his children. So al-asbat is the progeny of Yaqub alayhi salam, and it is in Yaqub alayhi salam, recall, his second name is Israel. So Bani Israel are named after Yaqub alayhi salam. And we have dealt with how Yaqub alayhi salam arrived in Egypt after his son Yusuf alayhi salam was there. So, وقوله وما أوتي موسى وعيسى يعني آمنا أيضا بالتوراة التي آتاها الله موسى وبالإنجيل الذي آتاه عيسى. Imam al-Tabari says that meaning Mama Utiya Musa wa Isa, what was given to Musa and Isa is the Torah and the Injil. Wal kitab allati atan nabiyina kullahum, and wal kutubi, and the books which were given to the other prophets. وأقررنا وصدقنا عن ذلك كله حق وهدى ونور من عند الله وأن جميع من ذكر الله من أنبيائه كانوا على حق وهدى ويصدق بعضهم بعضا على منهاج واحد في الدعاء إلى توحيد الله والعمل بطاعته. Imam al-Tabari, look at it, in one sentence he has opened up the whole chapter of our belief system. He says that we believe in all of them, we believe in all the books, and we believe and we testify that the books which were given to them were true, they were guides, and they were nur from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Allah. And what every Jamian, every single prophet that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed as a prophet was upon haqq, and some of them even testified to the prophethood of others, but all of them were on one single path, minhajim wahidin, and that minhaj, that single methodology, that single path is that of ila tawheedillahi wal amali bitaatihi, is the tawheed, is the unicity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and wal amali bitaatihi, and acting in obedience to him. The sum total of the entire message of all the prophets is this, that they all call to tawheed, to the oneness, to the unicity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is often wrongly translated, like many mistranslations, as monotheism. Anything that has ism at the end, just don't use it. These isms, they arrived in the 19th century, most of them, communism and feminism and humanism and all the rest of it. We don't use those terms with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the unicity, this is the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should introduce the word tawheed. We are introducing the word tawheed into the Queen's language because she doesn't have the copyright to it. Like we have this wonderful opportunity to Islamize English. And Islamization of English means that we bring in tremendous number of Quranic terms into this language by using over and over until it becomes unitalicized. There is no reason to italicize Hajj now, for example. Nobody italicizes Ramadan anymore because they have been incorporated into the dictionary. So if we use Tawheed, if we use Ihsan, if we use the key Quranic terms enough to make it part of the English language, so inshallah, ila tawheedillahi wal amali bitaati la nufarriqu bayna ahadin minhum. Now this is the part that caused the big fitna in our times. Well, they say, okay, you say, La nufarriqu bayna ahadin minhum. You say, well, we don't distinguish between one and the other. So what is the problem? Why don't we just open up the masjids to the Yehudis and Nasranis? And some people are opening their masajid to them. And it's no problem to open the masjid to them. The Prophet ﷺ opened his masjid to them. And this is the dalil they gave, this is the proof they gave. Well, he invited the Nasara, he had them sit and sleep there. But one of the old Aristotelian logical fallacy that he pointed out is that when you put apples on one side and you put bananas on the other side, and you say, well, look, the two pans are equal. Don't you see? The indicator in the middle is just in the middle. So I don't want to digress right now, but this is really one of the fasads. So, la nufarriqu bayna ahadin minhum. We do not farraka, we do not distinguish between them. What does it mean? It means, Imam al-Tabari says, that we do not say, or we do not, la numinu ba'ad anbiya wa manakfru bibad. We do not say that we believe on some and we don't believe in others. So, la nufarriku means that we do not say, like the Jews did, we do not say that. Kama tabarratil Yahud min Isa wa Muhammad alayhi salam. So, as the Jews said, well, we believe, but we don't believe in Isa and we don't believe in anyone who believes in Isa. Subhanallah. Or kama tabarratil Nasara min Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or as the Christians said that we do not believe in Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So you say, bal nashhadu li jami'ihim annahum kanu rasulallahi wa anbiya'ahu ba'usu bil haqqi wal huda. Rather say that we testify that all of them were messengers and prophets who were appointed with haqq and with guidance. So then Imam al-Razi, he takes this fundamental distinction, that fundamental clarification that is already in the tafsir literature by the time he comes. So what does he do? Look at the beauty of this. Look at the depth that he brings with his own brilliant mind of having a second explanation after the first, which is the same as was handed down through Imam al-Tabari and others. He says that the second is the following. La nufarriku, we do not distinguish between the prophets in terms of asul, in terms of the fundamentals. We believe that innahum mutafarrikuna fi asul al-diyanati bal hum mujtami'una ala al-asul allati hiya al-Islam. Kama qala Allah ta'ala. He says, look at this beauty, look at this wonderful insight that he gives us, that he says that we do not say that they were different in the asul, in the principle, but they were all upon the same principle of Islam. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, Shara'a lakum min ad-dini ma wassa bihi, Shara'a lakum min ad-dini. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has opened for you a deen, a path. Ma wasabihi, the one that he granted to Nuhum wallazi awhayna ilayka wa ma massayna bihi Ibrahim wa Musa wa Isa, the same as he gave, or he wasa, like he granted to Nuh alayhi salam, and to Ibrahim and to Musa and Isa, an aqimuddin, an aqimuddin wa la tatafarraqu fihi. He says that this is in Surah Shura, ayah number 13. He says that the dalil or proof is that the asul, the principle, is the same, and this is the meaning, he says, of that we do not learn farriku. This is the second meaning of that we do not distinguish, we do not make distinction between them, because their asul is the same, and that same asul refers to Islam in itself. And this is the second aspect of the fitna, that especially people in the study Quran, they say our Islam, the word Islam is general, generic, and because the Jews also believe in one God, the Jews also believe in the hereafter, therefore uh, that is Islam. But we say no, Al-Islam is specifically the deen that was revealed to the last of the messengers in its totality, including the Sharia. Including the Sharia, meaning how do you pray, which direction do you face, what is your Qibla, how many times a day, how do we fast, all of those. And finally, it says, Amma qawluhu wa nahnu lahu muslimun. This last phrase of the ayah, wa nahnu lahu muslimun. فالمعنى أن إسلامنا لأجل طاعة الله لا لأجل الهوى. He says the meaning of this is that our Islam is the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not the obedience of Hawa. Al-Hawa. Al-Hawa. Subhanallah, the whims. And he says, "Is kana kadhalika fahuwa yaqtadi annahu mata zahar al-mu'jizu wajab al-iman bihi fa amma takhsis ba'd ashab al-mu'jizat bil-qabul wal-ba'd bil-rad fadhalika yadullu ala anna al-maqsud min dhalika al-iman laysa ta'at Allah wal-inqiyad lahu bal ittaba'u al-hawa wal-mail." He says this is the proof. This is the, see the connection he's making here. He says that to believe in some of those who were given the miracles and to deny the prophethood of some of them is to follow their own whims. It's not the following of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decree but and his ruling, but following your own hawa and your own inclinations. بل اتباع الهوى والميل. Subhanallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. If anyone has any questions, they can just write in the chat. You can ask them too if you want. Like, what is the sum total of today's session? This one ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah, inshallah, it has become our own. We have internalized it. Read and reflect on the next ayah, which is 137th ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah. فَإِنْ آمَنُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ فَقَدِ اهْتَدَوْا وَإِنْ تَوَلَّوْا فَإِنَّمَا هُمْ فِي شِقَاقٍ فَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. This is such a clear-cut rejection of this, the common world people. So if they believe in what you believe, then they are guided, and if they turn around in shikak, so they will soon see. So soon Allah will, فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ He will make you, subhanallah, it's so difficult to translate this ayah. فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ we'll have to do it next week. Samiul Alim, He is Samiul Alim. Subhanallah. Ya Rabbi. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار يا كريم. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.